Hey, it's Dr. Schmidt. So I want to go over this post from a friend of mine on Facebook. And with this video, we're talking about mental health, and we're talking about a condition called akathisia, which I talked about a few years ago and I haven't really brought it up again. But based on this post, you need to learn about this. And it has to do with antidepressants and other psychiatric drugs. They grab onto your nervous system and they create sometimes the most horrible situation you can possibly imagine, and it's so bad that people want to leave their body. So just bear with me on this, and I know it's small. I'm going to read it to you. Most people watch these videos on their phone. I don't expect you to be able to read this, so I'm going to read it to you. So this is November 8th, 2019, and my friend's name is Brian Palmby. He says, I feel it's time to tell everyone what's been going on lately, and I'm not ashamed. In June, I asked my PCP, primary care physician, to go back on an antidepressant because I was on them before. I had some unexpected house repairs which caused moderate anxiety. The first one I tried gave me a bad reaction, as did the second one. Perplexed, I went to a third one that was actually successful in 2015, which I wanted to avoid this time as I gained weight from it back then. I was on that one for 6 weeks this summer, and I still had the same strange, intense side effects as the first two. The side effects were so confusing and awful that me and my wife decided to check me into the psych ward. You read that right. This was Labor Day weekend. While there, the doctor suggested I come off of the offending medication, and we would discuss next steps after I was released. There was no explanation of my bad reactions, which included shaking, pacing, rocking, crying, etc. After I was released, I needed answers. So I did some research and found out that I actually have something called akathisia, induced by these meds. I asked my doctor if this was the case, and he said it was noted in my chart during my stay, but nobody told me this. I had to find out on my own. Finally, an answer. Not knowing what the hell was going on inside me, I'd put on a brave face during all this around family and friends, and I even went back to work for a short time, but not many people knew or could understand what akathisia does to the inside. There are two ways I would describe it: restless legs but throughout your whole body and mind, or drinking 20 pots of coffee, tied up in a straitjacket, and placed in the middle of a busy Chuck E. Cheese. Where does this leave me today? I tried a fourth med but still have akathisia, although not the most intense parts. It still gives me muscle tremors and twitches, jitteriness, no deep sleep, confusion, and intense anxiety and irritability, especially around lights, noises, and crowds. These are the mental side effects of akathisia. How long it will last is TBD, to be determined. Some people have it for years. The doctors and I agreed I am, quote, treatment resistant. Therefore, I'll have no med helping face my anxiety and depression moving forward, like it did in 2015. What helped me in the past all of a sudden became poison to me in the present. It scares me, but I'm ready to fight. The worst part is I have not been able to be the best parent during this. I also haven't been able to do much with friends and family, and it hurts. I've been off work, and that is a lot of my identity. The good part is I've learned how good of friends, family, and coworkers I have, to the point of tears. If you have time, please Google akathisia, as it is not just a side effect of antidepressants. Other meds that cause this nightmare are migraine medicine, nausea medicine, blood pressure medicine, antibiotics, and even pre-op meds. So then he posts a link right here. So I posted a comment underneath that as soon as he published it. I said, in my career, I've helped many people get off psych meds and feel better. I totally understand akathisia, and I know what it is and how scary it is and how to reverse it. If you want my help, let me know. And then his wife posts underneath that, Darren, funny thing, we were just talking about you earlier this week and wondering if you might be able to help. I will get in touch with you. 20 days later, Brian Palmy committed suicide. This is serious. These psychiatric medications are the reason why so many military personnel are committing suicide. This is the reason why so many people shoot up schools. And has nothing to do with playing video games, has nothing to do with a lot of other situations that people propose. It's psychiatric medications and other medications that ruin your nervous system. Now, there was a time when somebody would kill 10 people in a school, and then you could get their medical records and you would see the psychiatric counseling they were getting. You could see the medications they were on. You would know the side effects of the medications. But several years ago, that was shut down because of privacy. So there's a HIPAA law, the Privacy and Portability Act. It's a federal law, and I guess it's still true even if somebody dies. So the psychiatrists are able to lock down that information, and it's not released as to what medications they were on or what cocktail of medications that a person was on. A lot of these medications have been studied in clinical trials, and some of the side effects have been hidden, but there's no clinical trials about the combinations of the psychiatric medications. I was at a restaurant once in Ann Arbor with a friend of mine. He's a psychologist, and he looks up and somebody walks in. He goes, "That guy right there, he's a psychiatrist. He puts people on 5 psychiatric medications on the first visit. He's ruining lives." And so this guy comes in, and my friend nods at him and says hello. And but this is 25% of Americans are on a psychiatric medication, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, antipsychotics, etc. And I've given this type of talk before, this type of lecture, this type of video with this same information. I've commented like this on Facebook, and people who are on psychiatric medications are disappointed in what I'm saying because they think that I don't understand what they're going through. They had a divorce, they had a death in the family, they lost their job, and they became depressed, and they went on a drug. No, I get that. I understand it, but it's not the ideal scenario. Ideally, you work through it and you have the best nutrition you can possibly take, and there are fantastic supplements to help you feel better in those situations. But of course, your medical doctor is not going to give those to you. They don't ever study that. It goes against their license to recommend nutritional supplements. They're taught in medical school that supplements are a waste of money, they don't work, and diet doesn't matter. So eat whatever you want. In the meantime, take these horrible pills that may make you feel better initially, but later they cause problems. The most classic example is Prozac. Everybody knows about Prozac, and it works for people initially, and then it doesn't work. And then you go on Abilify, and then you go on Wellbutrin, and then you get rid of Abilify, and then you go on Xanax, and it just becomes a soup of chemicals that are affecting your brain. So I gave a lecture at a high school last year, and I mentioned this, and I talked about a patient who was on psychiatric medications. She went into ketosis. She actually went carnivore. She felt a lot better in many ways, and she got off of her psychiatric medication, her antidepressant. One of the girls in the class was upset because she learned at that moment that psychiatric medications are not ideal. And it's ideal to help your body improve with nutrition. And she was very upset because her doctor and maybe her parents told her it's okay to be on antidepressants. And that's a true story. But it's more okay, it's better, it's more ideal to do this with nutrients. And I'm sure there's going to be a percent of the population, they're going to need antidepressants, etc. But if you're not that percent of the population, and you can do this with nutrition, it's cheaper, it's safer, and and then you don't end up like Brian, and you don't end up shooting up a high school, and you don't end up like not taking care of your kids, and not having fun, and not being able to go out with your friends. So we need more nutrition in our medical schools and in every single professional healthcare school, in all the medical clinics, all the chiropractic, naturopathic, massage, dietitian. They all need to start recommending nutritional supplements. And they need to start going to seminars and learning real healthcare, not this chemical straitjacket manipulation of the body, trying to cover up symptoms. It's about feeding the body as best you can. When your body's healthy, your mind gets healthy. So it's best to try to avoid these meds because you don't know what will happen in the future. Some people just get torn apart like Brian did with Akathisia. This is the article that Brian was linking to. I'll put the link below, but let me run through it really quickly. I'll read it to you. Just some of the highlights. So the title, Akathisia, 15 things to know about this horrible condition. And when you look at this picture, they have first they have a definition and then the symptoms, but they have this horrible painting of a person wrapped up in black and white, and it's like surrounded by smoke, if you will. That's what it's like. You don't see beauty in life. You want to leave. And so the symptoms: rocking back and forth, marching in place, shifting weight from foot to foot, pacing, inability to stand still, a sense of extreme, irresistible restlessness, irritability, panic, tension, agitation, anxiety, emotional unease, insomnia, dark, unpleasant thoughts, and impatience. So there's causes. The biggest cause is high strength first generation antipsychotic medications. Second one is neuroleptic drugs. And then antidepressants is number 3. Drug withdrawal from illegal drugs can cause this. That's why people, when they try to get off heroin or something, they always need to get back on heroin because they're trying to avoid akathisia. People sometimes just call them withdrawals. But it's that horrible dark thinking. List of drugs that may cause it: first generation antipsychotics, neuroleptics, antidepressants, and for the diagnosis, they have various conditions. Akathisia almost always goes away, but the question is, will it go away before the person kills themselves or other people? That's the question. Hopefully, it goes away fast. It doesn't always go away fast. It's very common. This is key. 20% of patients on antidepressants it appears in. It also appears in 30 to 40% of patients on neuroleptics, which is like a newer antipsychotic, and then 50 to 80% of patients taking first-gen antipsychotic drugs. It's very common. So imagine going on a drug to help you, and then you feel this. And this is why there's a black box suicide and homicide warning on these drugs. Here's the treatments. This is the biggest joke. They're using medications to treat a condition caused by medications. Blood pressure drugs, antivirals, anticholinergic drugs regarding the gallbladder, beta-adrenergic antagonists, benzodiazepine tranquilizers. So if you're suicidal, you're so tranquil by a drug that you don't have the gumption to commit suicide. And then they go over 4 different types of akathisia. At the bottom of this video, in the video description box, I'll put a list of my favorite supplements to feed the nervous system and the brain as much as possible, and some detoxification products. If you need help directly from myself or one of my clinicians, we've dealt with this before. It takes work, and you have to be diligent, and you have to give it some patience to clean out your nervous system, and we do have success with this. So I'll put that below. And you can also buy these supplements without ever talking to me. I'll put the links below for that too. So if you know anybody suffering from this, please share this video. And there are resources of like hardcore detoxification, like sauna resources, where people are in the sauna every day for 5 or 6 hours for a few weeks. These are for serious problems, when people have serious medication or street drug problems. And we can refer to them too. All right, if you like this information, please give me a thumbs up, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video.